And he said they basically...
Ladies and gentlemen! Yeah, another sensitive piece.
My lords, ladies, gentlemen, assorted congoers.
Yes. I thought it was a good idea to, as he's actually doing something, introduce Mr. David Wake and the launch of a book which I hate because he stole a role-playing idea from me. David!
Thank you, Gary. It was a number of years back.
Many.
So many lots. Yeah, sorry.
2013.
That was a while.
When I was...
Project, darling, project.
I will project, but my voice is going.
And that's why you project.
Yes, yes, lovely.
Where's working?
2013, I was invited to Armadacon as a guest of one of the she didn't go in the game.
Got a lot of value out of it.
I could launch a book. And they said, oh, brilliant, that's a brilliant idea. And they put on champagne. It was absolutely fantastic. I've never been treated as well since.
I know it's coming through, but I need to get louder.
Yeah, theatre gave the apple. I became a writer of some description. An author. An author is someone is a writer who has been published. That's the definition of the word. I became an author, which was very nice. And over the years, I've been launching and doing new club books at different conventions. I've been trying to do a different one each time. Of course, eventually you can't, so I've gone back to Armadacon for the fifth book. But it's been very nice. Seeing you all every year, or most years, during the pandemic and things like that. And also this series has grown up. I planned it to be a series, but I had no idea I would ever do 5 books. The only reason I've done 5 books is, as Gary pointed out, I had to nick role-playing campaign. Well, Gary, I'll talk about Gary for now. Gary organised a role-playing game based upon my books. At the NEC for UK Expo.
Yeah.
And it was as scary as the sound suggests.
I'll stop it now.
And I said fine, and so he was organising this game, and I went along. Didn't go along straight away. I thought it'd be best if the author kind of stuck in the back and went, oh God, this is terrible, no, or something. It was very bizarre because they were doing a fight scene on the staircase in Northern Chase in Dartmoor, which is one of the locations in one of the books, Invasion of the Grave. And Gary had them running up the stairs, turning a corner and running up further. And I, the author, obviously, had only ever imagined it as a straight staircase. So it was bizarre. It was interesting to see how readers get different things that are not necessarily what the author puts in, or they interpret things differently. It's sort of interesting to hear your characters with male voices running around as players in a game. Did you find that was the case?
Yeah.
And so Gary wrote another campaign. Oh no, it was that campaign. That was your replacement.
Yes.
For something that involved Carly the Death Goddess.
Yeah. That was my original idea. Yeah. And I said, can I use this one, David? And he said, no.
Because the 5th book was going to be Carly the Death Goddess.
I think mine would be better.
This is the thing I was going to talk about. This is a frightening concept. I now realise that it's in competition with something else. Now, I need to top Gary, but I didn't know what Gary was going to do, so that's quite hard. So you can always say, oh, mine. So there we go. So I launched in 2013 this book, the first one, which I have now rebranded. Some fantastic artwork from Paul McCaffrey. That was really excellent stuff. I should talk about that. I should talk about this one. Because this is the Sisterhood of Death Goddess. Which is number 5 in the series, which is basically a recycled Gary role-playing campaign. Have you got yours written down?
Somewhere.
Do I dare read it? I obviously couldn't read it beforehand, because then I would be accused of plagiarism. More than I'm going to be.
Well, don't forget, I don't actually write down the death goddess thing. I had to write a completely new story.
Yes, I do.
Yes. But you can read that one if you want.
I've read the time.
Yeah. Oh yes, I sent you it, didn't I? Yeah. No, I never wrote down the death goddess thing. Would have been better.
You see, it's not written down. Of course it's going to feel better.
No one papers never exist.
So I really ought to do a reading. I'm going to talk also about a couple of other books that I've done since last Armadacon. I've done number 3 in the Thinkosphere series, plus one, and The Man as a Conky Water, which I will do a reading of later on, because it's funny. I'm going to take my hat off. I'm wearing my hat because the villain in this book wears a sort of red gem in his turban. So this is appropriate. If you have read the book, you'll be terrified of my appearance. As opposed to just terrified of my appearance because of how I go.
Are we being locked in?
No, it's someone else being locked out.
Stay, listen to David Wake reading.
Ooh!
Love you.
Flute, I implore thee, my fluting tongue.
That's Douglas Adams! Oregon poetry. 10 quid to read it at the turkey readings on Sunday.
What, Oregon poetry?
Yes.
Turkey readings. I'm terrified of it rubbing off.
It might improve your writing.
There are 2 pieces of my writing I should bring to a turkey reading. They are truly, truly awful. I was in a writers' group, and I wrote a play for this writers' group, and it just didn't work. You know, everything I tried, it was a disaster. I ran out of time and I submitted it. And we got to the actual, you know, you sit in a circle and people take it in turns to say, oh, it was wonderful, it was lovely, darling. And that's what happened. And then somebody started to tell me what the plot was. Why, in writers' groups, do they tell the author what the plot is? Yeah. What? It happens so often. Finally came out to this guy called Michael, and he said, and I think I can quote this, Dave, this is shit. And I kept a straight face throughout, but inside I was going, yes, yes! Because I can now trust this guy every single time. That was fantastic. And then Jackie was sitting next to me, yeah, I agree with it. Shut up.
The domino effect then kicked in.
Yeah, so the last 2. But you know, it's important to get beta readers and editors. I have an editor and so forth to get things correct, and you're terrified about commas and stuff. This is the opening. Her Majesty, Queen Victoria, Grandmother of Europe, Defender of the Faith, and Empress of India, died on the very same day that Ernestine Dearing Doolittle married. Both events marked the end of an age. The month before, Ernestine and her sisters, Georgina and Charlotte, had stepped fresh off the steamboat into Bombay Harbour. The gateway of India proved to be as thrilling as Ernestine had hoped. Its streets pulsed with excitement, colour and crazy activity. The air dripped with the aroma of spices. and crowds of people and animals pushed and shoved along the dusty streets. Hindu rubbed shoulders with Muslim, Sikh with Christian, rickshaws weaved in and out, avoiding cows, camels, and even elephants. The streets resounded with cymbals and gongs, crowds babbled in 1,000 languages. Spiffing, Charlotte announced. It's bang up to the elephant. Language, Ernestine said. It's not rude. Something to write home about, Ernestine said. I said I was going to do my letters, Charlotte replied. Only one more month, Ernestine thought. If she could just hold on that long, her brave captain would give her the world. He was there by her side, handsome with his chevron moustache, dependable as always. I'll see if I can find a hotel wallet for the luggage, Captain Carruthers said. Thank you, Carruthers, Ernestine said. He marched off to take charge. She had met the good captain during that dreadful Austro-Hungarian business. I've lost my place now. There had been some drama since, but these had not been Ernestine's fault. She had obeyed her mother's clear instructions. No exploring, no trouble, no adventures. However, certain events, yes, that seemed a suitable word, had drawn them together, so it was only natural, knowing each other's rational outlook, that they should join forces, as it were. Although Carruthers had taken his time in proposing, but finally, after that dreadful business of all the SS Carnac, the good captain had gone down on one knee. Ness, Georgina said, he's your fiancé. One knows. Georgina sighed. One knows. Honestly, I'll do my duty to him and his regiment. That's not what I meant. What is there apart from duty? Said Ernestine. Ness, I despair, Georgina said. You should follow your heart, not the strictures of duty. They booked into Watson's Esplanade Hotel, an establishment for European learning, and they took a suite on the 4th floor. Their rooms boasted drapery from Bourne and Hollingsworth in Westbourne Grove, furniture from Dickens and Jones on Regent Street, and wallpaper from Harrods in Brompton. They had even imported white waitresses from England. When they came to unpack and get ready for the party, everything fell out of Ernestine's steamer trunk. Charlotte sniggered. It would help, Ernestine said. I've done mine. Neatly. I don't know why you're unpacking, you're going on holiday. In a month, and it's not a holiday. What is it then? A honeymoon. You'll still be friends when you're married, won't we? Charlotte asked. She sat on the bed, getting her dress creased and twiddling her blonde hair out of its artfully ironed barley curls. Of course, Ernestine said. The Deering Do Club forever. Ernestine ground her teeth and didn't say anything. Instead, she dropped her folded petticoat. Bother. Charlotte sniggered again. Neatly. Ernestine said nothing. She didn't want to encourage her little sister to ruin things, particularly as Ernestine seemed quite capable of doing that herself. She had taken to dropping things, fumbling her needlework and shivering despite the heat of the Bombay afternoon. It was winter, so goodness knew what the temperature would be like in summer. Ernestine sighed. You're in love, Georgina said. And she smiled that smug expression of hers. Her beautiful round face could be distinctly knowing. The things Georgina thought, honestly. That's the trick for a woman, Georgina continued. You have to be able to tell a good man from a bad one. Like target practice, Charlotte said. Not like target practice, Georgina said. Love was a disease that afflicted the foolish, causing them to elope and then arrange christenings. It was not the sensible joining together of two people for the mutual benefit of both. Ernestine and Captain Carruthers were evidently suited. It was as simple as that. Ernestine was not in love. She had common sense. Therefore, all this shivering and dropping things was a sign that she'd caught some tropical fever. She only hoped the symptoms would hold off long enough not to ruin her big day. And there were a lot of diseases in India, she'd read. Dengue fever, malaria, the galloping trots. It was the heat. Ernestine herself had been forced to reduce her underskirts to one choose a smaller bustle, and even resorts to loosening her corset. It's shocking stuff. Despite this, India was fascinating. Beneath its melting pot lay an archaeology of ancient civilizations, full of lost cities and tombs to explore and excavate. Who knew what artifacts were there ready for discovery and eventual display in a British museum? The Hindus dominated the region, and they had more statues of deities than seemed strictly polite. What was wrong, Ernestine wondered, with the standard monotheistic trinity? The Hindu gods came in the form of blue men, elephants, and even a death goddess with many arms. Imagine the death goddess. Although they all could all do with an extra arm or two to get ready for the party. Finally, the dangle of red hair had gone into its proper place. Ernestine stood up from her dressing table and turned to inspect the troops, as it were, the three Deering Doolittle sisters. Charlotte, the youngest, was wont to be silly, but she did look pretty in the blue dress they made her choose. "Can we go now?" Charlotte said. Next up was Georgina, beautifully turned out in her morning black that complemented her dark hair and dark eyes. Finally, there was Ernestine herself, the eldest, dressed in burgundy to match her red hair. She knew she wasn't pretty or beautiful, handsome perhaps, but now if she looked in the mirror, she did have a glow about her. Stuff and nonsense, of course, but Ernestine nodded to herself. Yes, she did. They'd all do, jolly nicely. "Shall we?" she said. Georgina smiled. "Yes, let's join the others." "Charlotte?" Charlotte first. "The Deering Do Club, once more onto the breach." Ernestine's jaw tightened. "We'll have none of that nonsense, Lottie." I was going to read the scene where Captain Gary kills Captain Carruthers, but I thought, maybe not. So yes, it moves on from there. Captain Gary obviously corners Captain Carruthers and kills him horribly with a revolver and a dagger and poisons him and makes him a blunt object. And so on, as we all discover.
Does he drown in the river?
He obviously gets dumped into probably the Ganges because it's set in India. Far away.
No, I'm interested in the characters that you created. I've heard some writers say that they take a lot of themselves from the front. Do you find that, or...?
Yes, I do. Yes. When I did the first book, I thought, well, the ideas process went like this. The Deering Do Club, that's a really good title for a series. I should do that. Why would it be called the Deering Do Club? It seems a bit strange. The Deering Doolittle sisters, that works. So I wrote the first book of these sisters, and the plan was it would always be an ensemble piece, and people would drop out of the club and other people would join. And it would gradually become something completely different. No, these three sisters went, "No, excuse us, that's our series. We only do books. Your idea of other people joining, sort of." It is odd, because each time I come back to do it, it's a pleasure to be in their company again. And I know that's got to be nonsense because it's coming out of this brain. Where do you get your ideas from? Now, Plus Side has in the back a picture of the author. We've always got about the author bit at the back of the book with a picture of the author, and I don't know if you can see that. But that is an MRI scan of my brain. I wrote hashtag, which is first of this series. Went for an MRI scan, and we've got to lie there for 50 minutes hearing these weird noises. I mean, really, has anyone had an MRI scan?
Yeah.
Utterly strange noises. Exactly the same noises that they used for the Forbidden Planet film. I thought, and indeed it is the case, because I listened to the soundtrack of the Forbidden Planet going to my second MRI scan. Really, utterly weird noises from Forbidden Planet, and weird noises from the MRI scanner. I was in a really strange place at the end of that. Lying in an MRI scanner, I thought, there is something I could do with the idea of hashtag. Hashtag is about you have a device before that effectively tweets all your thoughts to everybody in the world. So everybody knows everybody else. After one book, that's an idea you can't go any further. Lying there and ask, oh yes. So when people say, where do you get your ideas from? Fun again. You get your ideas from just there, sort of top left, as it were. Yeah, side right. So that's this. That's a scan of me having the very idea. I did NaNoWriMo once, and I started to get a pain in my head just here. We're right-handed. The hemispheres of our head cross over. So your left hemisphere controls your right hand, and the other way around. So if you have a stroke in this side of your brain, it affects this side of your body. So we all tend to be right-handed. That's the logical side of your brain, is this side. So when you have ideas, a lot of creative people are left-handed. So this is your creative brain. And I was getting a pain here, just there, when I was doing NaNoWriMo. My imagination is fatigued. What an interesting exercise. I rambled and I had no idea what the question was.
Interestingly, talking about the size of the brain, you've got a lot of dyslexics and a lot of people who are bilateral, and you get, instead of the left-hand side of the brain controlling your right eye, your right arm and your right leg, your left-hand side of your brain can control your right eye, your left arm and your right leg, and all combinations. If you can get these aberrations.
And if you're a primate, the whole left-right thing, your visual field does not do that. You've got stereoscopic vision, your eye overlap. It's way more complicated than left-right for your vision.
Yes, it's incredibly simplistic talking about this as your creative half, and that's the logical side. I realise that. But I don't know if make things nice to explain.
There was one other thing. You were talking about when Gary had put a curve in your staircase.
Yes.
When you read or listen to things about the making of Umberto Eco's Name of the Rose, the library, he describes brilliantly. When you're reading it, you believe you're there and you're reading round it, and then when they tried to make it on the film set, they had to do things so it would work.
I've just seen a YouTube video on the interior of the Millennium Falcon. It doesn't fit into the exterior at all. It's the same thing, isn't it? I mean, it's one of the bits of advice is when you're writing is not to be too specific in your description. You can get really hung up. I remember once I was trying to describe a stage that was sort of this high, and going in long paragraphs to do it, which is not relevant. The man's throne was on a raised stage. Job done. You don't need anything else. You only need to explain the stage to say, can you trip over it as you're going in? Or do you have to scramble up with a chair or something?
Douglas Adams did a similar sort of thing, I think one of the Dirt Gentry books, where he described in great detail the bathroom, and then they said, and at the end of the sentence it said that there was also, I can't remember now, but it was just so it went in description of the bathroom, and then, but there was something unusual in the bathroom, but it waited till after he'd done all the description of what was in the bathroom before the most unusual thing that was in the bathroom. I can't remember now.
Douglas Adams wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and his editor said, look, put a bit more description in. For example, the Heart of Gold spaceship. You've just said the Heart of Gold spaceship, nothing else. We know nothing else about it. So Douglas Adams rewrote it. The Heart of Gold spaceship stood in the distance and looked a bit like a running shoe. Because you don't. I want to come back to this dyslexic point. I co-run New Street Authors, which is a collective of independent publishers, based in Birmingham, but we've got people in Yorkshire and in Edinburgh. And I noticed that a lot of the people in the group are dyslexic. I thought, well, okay, do dyslexic people get attracted towards writing? And I came up with this big theory and whatnot. And then one of the members said, no, it's just exactly the same percentage as the rest of the population. So there went that theory.
I used to want to try and write.
And
I didn't do very well.
because of dyslexia.
Partly because I didn't have the confidence in putting the words together, and partly because I didn't have confidence in myself to make stories.
Well, I would want to talk to you afterwards and persuade you to go back to writing. Because I am addicted, and therefore, like any pusher, I want everybody else to do it.
I'm dyslexic, and I'm actually currently trying to write a roleplay system.
Right.
So anything can be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can take years to put. I mean, it's taken me years to get the thoughts in my head onto paper. But I'm getting there.
I mean, there are so many bits of software that can help you correct spelling.
It's not just spelling. It's your brain running ahead of your ability to turn the pictures in your head into something that you can look back on.
Pictures into words.
Yeah.
So your thought processes feel like they're travelling too fast. I mean, I
At a faster rate than you can
physically
make them get them out of yourself.
Yeah, no, I've been in that situation. I've been in the opposite situation where the words come out like one an hour.
Yeah. You've had a plot that's run away from you.
Yeah. All of them.
Well, I was thinking about, I seem to be reading the author of Moby Dick. Captain Ahab was not the original central character. If you read the early chapters, apparently there's a completely different character, and you've got partly from this character is boring, you killed him off. And then went with a different character.
Well, I've had that, Captain Corrales, for example, just shove up the side.
There will be kneecapping. And Dawn will help me.
No, it does. I know, crossing the bridge, I remember, the plot required this character to be caught. He was in a prison cell. And he was needed, the plot required the baddies to take him somewhere. Okay? But this guy decides to escape. And he's locked in a prison cell. You know, there's nothing he can do. But he moves a table over to what? He's in an interrogation room, not prison cell. He moves a table, puts a chair on top of it, he dismantles the ceiling tiles, and then he hides down there. And this guy starts to escape from this situation. The plot required him not to. And it was just coming out of my fingers. You know, I wasn't aware of any process. I was as surprised and excited seeing the words appear on the screen, with half my brain going, but he has to go here in the plot. So yes, characters come to life. It's fantastic it happened. Sometimes it doesn't. I know the Dewey Little Sisters so well now that I can just plug them in a situation and they will argue and go and do something else. They speak just write themselves. Which is odd, isn't it? Because clearly, logically, it comes from my brain. So how can it surprise me? That makes no sense. Lovely. That makes no sense.
It's a form of introspection.
Yeah.
Considering you're about to get one of them married off, is the next book going to be Derry Do Sisters and the Nanny?
It's the evil nanny. You're assuming, of course, that she gets to the wedding. Spoilers.
Would you be that cruel?
Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't have met this man before.
I've just been
Ernestine's
explaining.
been through a lot.
Yes, but I have just been explaining. I have no control over it. They just do their own thing.
You're still going to get kneecapped.
It's not my fault.
Misery. It'll be misery all again.
It's a combination of characters coming to life, Gary's suggestion that I kill characters off, and
Was you, was it? It's me.
You with the candlestick in the library. Go on. You've got that sledgehammer again.
Gary said to me, I'm not allowed to kill any more main characters off. Unless. Behind his eyes, he's saying, unless I can do it. So I said, oh, okay. So Captain Gary was horrifying.
But you get around that by horribly maiming him and putting him in a hospital bed for the rest of the series. He's not dead.
Can't put him in a hospital bed in Victoria.
That would kill him.
Asylum.
Oh yeah, asylum. Oh, consumption.
Yeah. Slow lingering.
I did want to kill one of my cousins in childbirth, and I stopped.
Yes, you were.
It was bad enough you killed Mary off as it was.
No, don't. Spoilers.
The first book, Dave. Most of us who are going to buy books have already bought it.
They're hateful. Absolutely, I really identified with people.
Don't buy books.
Spoilers things. I don't like having a cover on my books, or certainly not a blurb on the back. It's brilliant reading. When I was in Fringe, I used to try and go to Fringe shows without knowing anything about it. I never managed, but the greatest thing I wanted to do was see a show I didn't even know the title. When you have to buy a ticket. You can't go up and go, you're allowed to buy a ticket, and go, what for? And go, don't tell me!
Tuesday, 10 o'clock.
Tuesday, 10 o'clock. I bought a chessboard in, I put that to pieces, because one of the devices I've used in the book is, I'm going to have to read this. Chatterajee, which is a precursor to chess. I mean, I can't pick this up and show it to you.
A good trick,
But it's chess with 4 players. And quite clearly, 2 people said, shall we play? Oh, well, you play black and white, and I'll play red and green. Let's shove the pieces out. You've got chess straight away. In fact, I can't believe that you would invent a game like this with 4 players. Clearly, it's a simulation of warfare. And warfare tends to be between 2 teams. So this, I think, must have been based upon a 2-player game, became a 4-player game for no very good reason, and then became a 2-player game again. Went to Persia, became chess in that direction.
It all depends, actually, if you think about it, if it's military strategy. If you're fighting more than one person, if they have allies, in theory, you're not fighting a single army, you're fighting 2. Think Napoleon, the way he did stuff.
Yeah.
Represents that being outnumbered.
Yeah.
It must be, yeah. It does mention allies in this game, so maybe black and white play together or something. Not according to the rules I found, but maybe in an earlier version.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bridge then, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's like bridge.
Yeah.
You're playing as a team. You have no idea what your teammate can do, but you're hoping to go between the 2 of you. You've got a good plan. Or you're screwed.
I should have used that in the book, a metaphor.
Too late.
Too late, you published it now.
Technically, you haven't launched it yet.
Sorry?
Technically, you haven't launched it yet.
Oh, no, it's too late now.
At the back of the market.
I did before I set off to Armadacon and clicked the publish button. It takes up to 72 hours. So
But you've still got time then.
yeah, you can still buy the book first, but the clock is ticking.
You could always do what Jasper Ford did, which was revise the notes from the bottom and publish them later.
Well, that's one of the things with better publishing is you can change things. Someone puts out a spelling mistake, you go, thank you very much, don't tell anybody else. And hope nobody notices.
Loads of updates
Yeah.
on books. Never know why, but they say update.
Well, it's out in the Hitchhiker's Guide. The books, the film series, the film, every single one is different intentionally. Quite clearly said.
Yeah.
They're all.
I think that's something to admire.
Well,
and also drive you around the bend.
There's a couple actually where I've read the hardback, and then when the paperback comes out, there's actually changes in it because he's realised that something's not quite right. He's got it changed before the paperback version comes out.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to
Somebody
admit my
actually
mistakes?
put one of the addresses
Yeah.
and put into the
But
Yes.
you need a David Wayne app, so you can actually just send updates easy.
Yeah.
And we all
I
just
finished reading The Mysterious of Barry Styles, the first book, the first Poirot, and she rewrote the last couple of chapters. And because I got a digital copy, they've included the chapter that she changed. So you've got the ones that were in the book. There's also the chapter that she didn't use, which takes his doing the denouement in the salon and in front of all to court. He actually did it in the court.
I didn't realise they still have the court chapters.
Yeah, but it's
that
an
whole
added extra.
While at the end, she wrote it, and they all go to court to explain what happened. And the editor said, no, put it in the drawing room.
Yeah.
And that's where the cosy mystery comes out. Which brings me very neatly to
If only he was really good at plugging his books in real life, not with a bunch of friends.
So this is not real life. But it explains a lot.
Yeah.
I turn readers into fans very well, but I don't turn strangers into readers. I'm useless in that. So I've had two techniques of selling that have been brilliant. Absolutely never failed me. One is to carry one of these boxes of books through the bar at a convention. Like this. Some people take sympathy on you and buy your book. You then have to nip back to your room to get another book to fill the box up. And you can stagger through the bar again. Which is why I am guest of honour, because you bought a book of mine at Redemption. So David Harvey there fell for this trick.
I would like to apologise to all of you.
Yeah. The other technique is to follow Gary around. Just get him to talk.
So you're a bit like a cigarette salesman. The girls who used to sell the cigarettes in the baskets in front of them down there.
No. The cinemas. The interlude. The last coming round with the ice cream tray.
Oh yeah.
Very
different.
I'm a bit, I thought I was
I've
like
never seen in that box.
When I started, this is a really useful box, something literally just, I could get 18 iPhones in this, and then I published it on the book, and I could get 9 of each. Now I've got too many books. I can't get a full set in the box. I've written my millionth word. There is a thing that says, you write a million words of crap and then you get good. So halfway through there's a cocky one. But they do read all the words you write. So I've been writing a diary, would you believe, every day since 1977.
Wow.
And each year is now about a novel's worth. So,
Historians are going to love you.
well, no, they're not. Because the real practice for me has been to write in my diary about what I have watched on television and make it interesting. I watched another episode of Fringe. Next day, I watched another episode of... Oh, no, it's hopeless. I don't know if you saw it or not. They might drive around the bend.
Well, they liked Peeps, and he was writing about cheese.
Yeah.
And
He buried cheese during a fire of London. I watched The Fringe because
But that was a cracking script, Gromit.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. It's about
the human stuff.
And people's lives, and how if you've got the whole range of different people's lives expressed in those very few words, a few words from you, a few words from somebody else, they can bring together to understand the lifestyles at this point of history. Without those words, we wouldn't have that aspect.
And I don't like what Fringe is like. I would be interested in coming back as a ghost to see what a historian would make of it.
It's any great economic crash of 2022. People were apparently watching Fringe.
What were you doing during the pandemic?
This for 45 years.
Cool.
Astonishing period. I've missed 3 days. I started, then I missed the next 3 days. And then I stuck to it. And then
Wow. That's impressive.
So my millionth word, when I published, is vestments. So there we go, that's a brilliant word. So I should do a reading from this. We did, New Street Authors did a launch event, Unlocked and Live, for all the books during the pandemic that came out. We never had a party. So we had a bit of that thing. I do think books need a party, need a christening. So thank you all very much for coming to mine. I want to read a little bit from The Murders of Conky War, but I have brought someone along who can do it properly. So I need to explain this. When you're writing crime fiction, this is crime fiction, it's a shocking expose of something. It's a cosy mystery. It's set in the village of Conky-Warra, which is not unlike St Mary Lord. Probably exactly the same if I could find it on Google Street View. And they say when you're writing crime fiction that you must put a body on page 1. You've got to do something exciting early on. So if you've got a crime, get a body on page 1, so that the audience, the readers, are excited by it. It is ludicrous. Because the formatting standard is you have a title page that are blank, and then you start the book. All books start on page 3. So you can't have a body on page 1. It's just not possible to do.
Unless you're writing the script for Midsummer Murders.
Yeah.
No, you publish that book, there'll be a title page, Midsummer Murders, a blank page, and then page 3 is when the thing starts. So here is, we'll start reading chapter 1, chapter 1, page 3. The chapter is called A Body on Page 1. It was a dark and stormy night.
It's just terrible,
Annabelle said, wringing her hands again to see if there was any more anguish to squeeze out. She was the youngest of 3 friends, barely into her free bus pass, and dressed stylishly in an outfit popular on over 50s dating apps.
Yes, dear.
Pat said. Her half-moon glasses magnified the twinkle in her eye at the Times crossword.
But the parish magazine has been printed for nearly 175 years. Come rain,
The lightning flashed outside.
flood, storm, war, even the great Hornet invasion.
Such had been the news that the 2 old friends had started on the muffins. Thunder pealed and the doorbell rang.
That'll be Diane.
Pat said. Diane stood outside in the rain and thunder raged in her eyes.
Di, come in before you catch your death.
Diane wiped her Wellingtons on the welcome mat, then slipped them off to come into Pat's drawing room. She wore sensible everything except for a couple of loops of pearls, and she had a reputation as a battle axe, treading the boards of amateur theatre, the boardrooms of local government, the boards put out over muddy fields at protests.
The vicar!
Diane said.
Now, Di, we must be understanding.
Pat said.
The vicar! Yes, but he may have a point. After all, everything is being connected to the internet. 5G ups and all that. The vicar's dead! Well, that's a little strong. It is only a parish magazine. I'm sure you can settle your differences.
Annabelle said.
I mean, he's the vicar, and we have to talk to him on Sundays at the very least. He's dead! Knifed in the back! It is a kind of betrayal. You're not in Scrabble. Belle, listen! The vicar's lying in the church with a knife in his back!
A dreadful silence filled the room, except for the hammering of the rain outside, the rolling thunder, and the whirring of Pat's old fridge.
Whatever is he doing that for? Pat, a second opinion, please.
Pat glanced at the paisley curtains, so thick and capable of keeping out the cold and uproar.
On a night like this?
Diane nodded. So, the three old ladies donned their coats and rain hats, crossed the lane, and then struggled up the hill to the church. The path led through the graveyard to the porch. The sky flashed as Diane pushed open the heavy oak door. But they didn't hear it creak as the thunder chose that moment to roar. Inside, in the dark, they found the remembrance candles, and Diane struck a match to light one for each of them. The flames cast vast shadows, and the darkness sulked about as they crept down the aisle, under the reproachful gaze of stone angels and stained glass saints. The quiet hung heavy.
I was giving him a piece of my mind.
Diane started to
About, well, everything. The parish magazine, guitars instead of the organ, and the nonsense with Mrs. Entwistle's flower arranging. It's all changed. Well, quite. When?
Diane trailed off, till even the echoes were quiet.
When?
Pat prompted.
When I realised he wasn't listening. Oh, typical man. So I tapped him on the shoulder, and he fell. There. Oh, how rude.
They rounded the front pew, and there was no more need for explanation. Beneath the eagle gaze of the lectern, the vicar lay sprawled on the tiled floor. His bald head reflected the warm glow of their remembrance candlelight. An ornate knife stuck out of his back.
Vicar?
Pat tried. No answer. She bent down and reluctantly felt the fallen man's neck.
There's no pulse. Oh, God! Oh, sorry, Lord! His hands are too cold to tell, really. I'll turn him over.
However, one-handed, Pat wasn't strong enough. Annabelle took Pat's candle from her, and then two-handed, Pat still wasn't able to manage it. So Diane helped, and three-handed, the vicar rose gently and rolled onto his side. Reverend Pendleton's eyes stared wide, blank, and full of disapproval.
He's dead.
Pat decided. Diane began to let go.
Wait, there's something caught underneath. What is it? A piece of paper.
Pat said. She tugged gently, teasing it free.
This is a terrible accident.
Annabelle said.
If only he'd let Mrs. Rawlings polish the silver. She's slow but careful. The Reverend didn't know how to do it probably, so the knife probably slipped. I doubt it, Belle.
Diane said.
It's not an accident. Suicide. Ooh. How terrible. Is that a suicide note? It's not suicide, Belle.
Diane said.
A bit more.
Pat said. They rolled him further. The sheet of A4 wouldn't quite slide out. Then the oversized fancy handle sticking out of his back caught the tiled floor, but he turned no more. His body held the last corner of the paper, so it tore when it came free. He let go. The vicar rolled back into the recovery position, from which he was never going to recover.
Well, yes, what is it?
Pat held the sheet of paper up to the feeble candlelight. It was blank on one side and seeped in blood, but the other had the familiar line drawing of the church over the title banner.
It's from the parish magazine. He was lying on page 1.
I would like to point out that it was a dark and stormy night is always thought to be a cliche.
Yep.
But it's not. I only ever had notes for this talk. I can tell you who used it first. But there was someone back in the 1930s who was known for his hyperbole. Sorry?
Edmund Butler Little.
Edmund Butler Little. All this hyperbole, and he wrote a novel that said it was a dark and stormy night. It was ridiculed for it, and thus it was called a cliche. But nobody else has ever used it except for one person who was writing a manual on, I think, digital communications. And he always wanted to start a book with it was a dark and stormy night. He thought, I'm going to write about electronic communications. I'm going to start it was a dark and stormy night. And the third person to use it is me.
And Snoopy.
Snoopy did it too. Snoopy did.
I stand corrected. It's clearly a cliche.
Tell me a story.
Yeah.
Isn't half the episodes on Scooby-Doo done in a dark and stormy night?
Yeah.
It becomes more expensive. It just doesn't.
You know, they went to find the body and it was a sunny day. They went to find the body and it was slightly overcast.
Rain stopped playing, yeah.
You know, lightning, thunder. It's, you know, if we just say Shakespeare's Macbeth stuff that way, doesn't it?
You could always go for, they trudged through the snow, it was so cold his body was frozen to the slabs in the church floor.
Yeah, I didn't. So that's it. Have written plus sign and Rose of Cocky Wallet since last Armadacon. And this Armadacon, please welcome to the fold the Sisterhood of the Death Goddess.
Sorry, you forgot to mention the major selling point of the Murders of Conky Wallet.
Oh yes! The Murders of Cocky Wallet contains a
The only reason I bought this book.
Yeah, it contains a free scone recipe. You can't ask for more. You know. But you're cliche. An explanation of bodies on page 1 and a scone recipe.
Yes. What more could you ask?
Or a scone recipe.
Scone.
In Devon, which way round? Is it jam or cream?
Cream first, jam later.
One of each.
And if he sells all his books, it will abscond with the money.
Disagree with that.
Come on, you probably creamed off the profit.
Can we jam any more bad jokes into this?
Yeah.
That's a dirty job.
We've got to do it.
Left to right.
Just describe.
The grey here is the one I was giving away for free last
Go when you want.
You'll find
You
it
haven't got
every
this
bear, I
thing.
think.
Yeah.
I haven't looked all this in.
This is all.
Yes.
That's the only reason you did it, to be fair.
They advise you to rebrand your books every 2 to 3 years. I've been doing nothing else but this rebranding for the last month. It's unbelievably difficult. Fiddly, and so I won't be doing this for another few years. But Paul McCaffrey did the artwork for you. It's fantastic. Very pleased to do. But it's really hard work.
I'll have to get it for the vicar at work.
So you better appreciate it. What's
5 minutes as well.
Yeah.
that's the person in charge of programming, it's me. I have no clue what's next.
I think it's unplugged. Plug on plug.
Thank you all. Let me please plug unplugged, which is people coming along and doing readings. I've burnt mine. This is at 9 o'clock.
In 5 minutes.
5 minutes. This has been the launch of the Dooney Club and the Sisterhood of the Death Goddess. I have been David Wake. Thank you very, very much. Yay!